We are talking offense here today. Where did Michigan State get better? Where did they get worse, if anywhere? But first, hey, we got to talk about some numbers with this Michigan State team with the one, the only Brendan Moore of Spartans Illustrated. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning into Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white, at least 3 days a week in June and July, 5 days a week every other month. But hey, if it happens in East Lansing, we talk about it here at Locked On Spartans. Now, unlike last episode, it's not just me blabbing on and on just by myself. No. We are joined by the one, the only Brendan Moore. He has been doing fantastic work over at Spartans Illustrated. He has been a great follow. Be more CFB on Twitter. I am ashamed it has taken me this long to drag Brendan Moore on here. So first and foremost, I apologize not just to you, Brendan, but to all the listeners, because you know your ball, man. But second of all, hey, how you doing? Is the offseason going okay for you, fresh off of a fan camp? That we'll get into in the show. Okay?
You know, I'm a little sore from the camp, but overall, I'm doing good. Sun is shining outside. Beautiful June day. We got football season approaching, so I'm excited.
There we go. Well, hey, you know what? You're sitting up right after 50-ish Oklahoma drills, I can imagine, at fan camp. But again, we'll get to that later. Hey, you've been doing great work over at Spartans Illustrated, a part of the Rivals Network. Go subscribe to those fine folks. Before we get into, hey, position group by position group, who's better on offense, who's not as good as last year, you did a fantastic piece. A lot of numbers being thrown at people, just the numbers that go into next season, returning starters, experience, this and that. What is one or two numbers that you think are the most important for our Spartans going into next season?
Yeah, like you mentioned, me and one of my colleagues, Caden Handwork, we had a piece over on SpartansIllustrated.com a couple of days ago where it was like 2,000 plus words, really taking a deep dive into this roster is made up of, just breaking it down, giving you some key statistics. We calculated total career starts on offense, total career starts on defense. Where are these transfers coming from? But the number that stood out to me the most when I was going through this was 49% of this team is first-year players. That's transfers coming in from who knows where, true freshmen, preferred walk-ons, all of those. 49% are first-year Spartan players. So, sometimes those guys hit, sometimes they don't. We've seen it at Michigan State, like in 2021. Most of them pretty much hit, especially Kenneth Walker. 2022, 2023, maybe not so much. Obviously, other factors as well, but that's the number that stood out to me the most.
I love that. And just like two that popped out to me was 68 starts for this offensive line. Now, granted, that comes with a big asterisk because Luke Newman, he's 37 of those starts. And I'm not, the greatest math whiz, but that's over half. So that was kind of with an asterisk, but there's one that you really can't put an asterisk by. And hopefully this is something that resonates here, is that experience can get the job done. It's 111 starts for the defensive backs, Brendan. I love seeing that number. No shortage of experience in the defensive backfield. And Brett, I don't know if you know this. It was not good the last few years in the secondary for defense. So, you're hoping that, hey, you know what? Malik Spencer starting as young as he did. Chuck Brantley, of course, Angelo Gross. That's 111 career starts. And that's not even to mention, Ed Woods, 14 starts, like you mentioned in Spartans Illustrated, or Nikai Martinez, 13 starts last year. That's experience. That can make us smile, right? Right, please.
Oh, absolutely. That's the most experienced position group on this team. Even if you look at the guys coming in for their first year as transfers, they got starting experience at Power 5 schools as well. Like Ed Woods at Arizona State, like you mentioned, Martinez at UCF, Jeremiah Hughes. He didn't start any games at LSU, but he's coming over, from an SEC program, one of the best programs, in college football history, probably. So, you got a lot of experience with the transfers, with the guys coming back. So, I'd like to think this secondary improves. This Smith and that staff really attacked that position group in the spring transfer portal window. So, I'm cautiously optimistic based on how the past few years have gone, but I do like the experience in that room that they have right now.
Plenty more numbers. Are there any other that you wanted to get to, or you just leave it all to people to just go find for themselves at Spartans Illustrated? Because just like I said, a very in-depth piece, but If is there one more number you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I mean, all of it's on SpartansIllustrated.com, like I mentioned, so go check it out. But one of the things this really doesn't have a ton to do with the 2024 team, but it was one of the things I really wanted to research was how many players are still on the roster from the 2021 team that went to the Peach Bowl, beat Pitt.
Ooh, I like that.
We had 13. We came up with 13 players, so that's more than I expected, to be honest.
That I was going to guess single digits for sure before reading the piece, but I also love it too because it's not just the starters on this team too. You guys get down to the walk-ons in this piece, so in depth, thorough as always. And look, now we're going to go position group by position group. If you guys remember a few weeks ago with Maxwell Klitsky, we did the defensive side of the ball. Who's gone? Who's still here? Who do we add that's new? We're going to do the same format here for this discussion. Brennan, we're going to start with just the quarterback. We're going to be boring here. We're going to start right with that premier position. Returning from last year. Brendan, do you hear the crickets? Because I do. Ain't no one back from that quarterback from last year. We don't even have the walk-on Andrew Skofar returning from last year. So out is Caden Hauser. Out is Sam Levitt. Out is Noah Kim. But in, you got Tommy Schuster, Alessio Milivojevic, and Rylan Jesse. Am I missing anyone in the quarterback room that we added this offseason? Surely that's everyone.
I think that's it, yeah.
All right,
yeah.
On to running backs then. Perfect, great. No, obviously Aidan Chiles. #1 rated transfer per 24/7 Sports. And look, any recruiting site you look at when it comes to transfer rankings, he was up there for good reason. Brendan, I'm going to just lob a softball to you right now, but hey, did the quarterback position get better from last year this offseason, you think? Or where are we at here?
I think they did. We'll see. We'll see, but I have a hunch that they did get better. No, in all seriousness, I mean, 4 new guys coming in. I mean, that's part of the 49% that we said our first year players. So 4 new guys. Aidan Chiles obviously doesn't have the starting experience, maybe, but he's going to show a lot of potential this year. I think. I mean, he's athletic. He can use his legs. I was a little bit concerned with the downfield passes a little bit in the spring game, so hopefully he can clean that up as he develops chemistry, especially with these wide receivers. But quarterback, 100% instantly improved. And another key is I like Tommy Schuster as the backup quarterback. I mean, he's the only one with starting experience in this quarterback room, and he's your backup. So, I mean, I like the 1-2 punch at quarterback. If something were to happen to Chiles, I'm not praying that on anyone, but just backup is always important.
Yeah, we have learned how important the backup position can be here. Not just a quarterback like we did last year, playing 4 different quarterbacks, but all over the field, of course. But yes, top end, like the floor is raised, the ceiling is raised. Could there be a situation in the future where, I don't know, like Sam Levitt, he showed some promise last year. Like, could he end up having the better career over in Tempe? Sure, like there's a realistic possibility. I wouldn't, make that the favorite of the outcomes, but yeah, you're feeling pretty good as a State fan right now with the quarterback room from the offseason. I know that, hey, in football, there's a lot more than just one position, but that is the most important position. It's kind of a lazy sports take, but it's kind of where I lean. I feel happy with how Michigan State fared in the quarterback room this offseason. Safe to say that that's just the overwhelming result of the offseason for the quarterback room, Brennan?
Absolutely, 100%. And sometimes the lazy takes are the correct takes. I'm just going to say that.
I should try that more then. I should try to tone it down then.
Sometimes.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. All right, guys, we got a lot more to get to. A lot more position groups. We're going to go to the running back room next. But first, I hate to do this just 9 minutes into our chat. But Brendan, got to move you to the bench because I need to talk to people's ears off about Gametime, the greatest ticketing app out there. Guys, you've heard me talk about Gametime for weeks, if not months, if not a little over a year now at this point. Gametime's been a great partner with us, and I'm thrilled to be working alongside Gametime because they're the best ticketing app out there. Where do I begin? Well, of course, with money. This is always where I begin with Gametime. They save you that cheddar right off the bat. We're talking when you download the app, enter promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's going to save you $20 off your first purchase. I'll bark more about that later, but also in the experience using the app, the flash deals throughout the week. Let's say you're going to go to a game, a concert, theatrical performance, anything with a ticket throughout the week. Hop on the app. You're going to see great seats at great deals. Or let's say you just woke up one morning and, oh my goodness gracious, it's already 11:30 a.m. The Tigers start at 1. well, yeah, sure, I want to go down to Comerica Park. They got the last-minute ticket deals also at Gametime, point blank period. They have so many ways to save you money. They are the greatest app out there, super simple to use. And guys, like we just said, right when you start, you're going to start saving money. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. It's last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, let's drag him back on here. It's Brendan Moore of Spartans Illustrated, and we're going to head to the running back room here, Brendan, because we left things last year with like our fifth or sixth string running back, Harold Joyner, who was a converted safety, converted linebacker, converted tight end, converted 50-50 ticket salesman, converted running back again. That's how we left last season. But ever since then, who do you return? You return Nate Carter. All right, that's a great start. Now, who is out? Jaron Mangum. I don't know if you guys heard about that in the offseason. That caused a slight rift with the Mangum family. And then Jalen Berger, he's out. Davion Prim, he is out. You bring in true freshman Brandon Tulis and also 1,000-yard rusher out of UMass, K'Ron Lynch-Adams. Brendan, running back room. Are we going for two here? Has Michigan State gotten better in the running back room, just like quarterback, you think?
Yeah, I'm going better. I like the additional Lynch-Adams that they made in the spring window. I mean, he's a 1,000-yard rusher at UMass, experience. He spent time at Rutgers too, so he knows the Big Ten a little bit. And now I don't know exactly how many touches, what the touch distribution is going to be between him and Nate Carter, but I mean, I don't imagine he's going to be the number one running back. I don't imagine they brought him in to overtake Nate Carter, but we'll see. But I do like that 1-2 punch. And then I expect Tolas to even mix in a little bit too. He showed some flashes in that spring game. So those top three I like better than the top three of last year. So I'd say running back definitely got better.
I'm just fascinated with the splits, right? Because, I mean, Nate Carter and K'Ron Lynch-Adams, they are very similarly built, almost 6 feet tall. They're humming around that 200-pound range. Like, it's not lightning and thunder. It's just thunder with a little more thunder added to it. And Brandon Tulis, like, he's no stick either. Like, he's pretty stocky, too, even as a true freshman. So, I just going out on a limb, like maybe Nate Carter's like 45% of the touches, K'Ron Lynch-Adams 40%, and the other 15% is distributed elsewhere. I don't like. I do think it is going to be a close split carry, but that's a fascinating storyline with the running back room, isn't it?
Yeah, I would. My guess right now, I mean, we'll see during fall camp and obviously leading into the season, but I think Carter's going to get probably 50% of the touches, and maybe Lynch-Adams probably 30 to 35, and Tolas probably the rest. But that's just my hunch right now. I still think Carter's the number one running back. So, but I do like Lynch-Adams as the number two.
And I'm just so hopeful for Nate Carter. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like too married to the idea because I was high on Nate Carter ever since he transferred here from UConn. Like he played a very short season, got injured, but led the nation in yards after contact. Like that's a very sexy running back stat to have. I just don't think that the issues with Michigan State last year, being in the basement of the Big Ten, I think it was 2.7 yards per carry. Like Brendan, me or you could have gotten 2.7 yards per carry last year. I just don't think it was a Nate Carter issue, though. I think it had to do with a little bit of play calling, predictability, the scheme, and also the offensive line, which we're going to get to here a little bit. I don't think necessarily helped last year. Am I just too married to the idea of Nate Carter, or are you buying the stock too?
No, I completely agree with you, and it did seem Carter might have been a little bit injured towards the latter portion of that season. I mean, maybe a little bit banged up a little bit, but I mean, I like Carter. I think he's a solid running back. So I'm buying the stock of him, buying the stock of this run game. I think it's going to improve, especially, I mean, like you said, we'll get to the offensive line, but I like the interior of the offensive line. So if they can create holes, A gap, B gap, maybe even, then I think there'll be a little bit more running lanes for Carter.
And Nate Carter's just a nice kid, you know.
Great guy. Yeah,
pleasant human being, you know, to have just having him go the last 10 games of the season without finding the end zone just broke my heart. Obviously, there was a lot of reasons to be, you know, heartbroken about the players last year, but that was just one of the underlying storylines. It's like, oh my God, this guy hasn't celebrated a touchdown since Mel Tucker was on the sideline, and that was early in the season.
That's crazy to think about. Yeah.
It's just not right. So I'm still high on Nate Carter. Call me a sucker, but fine. I'm a sucker for Nate Carter. So sue me. Hopefully they'll all prove me wrong here. As we move to the wide receivers here. Now there's some good turnover here, right? Like who we have back though: Montorie Foster, Jerron Glover, Alante Brown, Isaiah Johnson, Antonio Gates Jr. Now those last two names, Isaiah Johnson, Antonio Gates Jr., didn't play a ton. but they'll be featured a little bit more this season. Also out from last year, Trey Mosley, Christian Fitzpatrick, Tyrell Henry. Now, who you've added? Nick Marsh. We're not going to count TJ Sheffield. We're not going to count the 6 minutes that he was a Spartan in the offseason, but Nick Marsh, you kind of like that. Is it crazy to say that we're going 3 for 3, that you've improved from last season, or are we just ultimate fanboys saying that? I don't know.
I'm actually going to go with a wash at wide receiver. I think it's going to be pretty similar. I like Mosley. I thought he was a dependable receiver. But I do think Marsh kind of brings a different element, take the top off the defense a little bit more. I think he's a little more athletic than Mosley was. So I do like the addition of Marsh, obviously a true freshman. And for you, everyone listening to this is probably a Michigan State sicko fan. If you're looking for a breakout player, I do think Isaiah Johnson is. You need to keep your eyes on Isaiah Johnson. Him and Alante Brown are probably the two fastest guys on this football team. Now, I don't expect Isaiah Johnson to be like a top 3 receiver this year, but I will not be shocked if you see him on a Saturday catching, a 60-yard deep bomb pass, something like that. So I think Johnson's probably going to have 200 or 300 yards this season, probably be a top 5 receiver for this Michigan State team. So I do like some of the pieces here, but overall, losing Mosley was a dependable guy. I'll go with a wash.
Okay. I think that's fair too. I like Mosley too. I feel like there was a little bit of a drop off last year, but that's veteran leadership out of the slot. And the slot is a position that they like to profile in the Jonathan Smith, Brian Lindgren offense here. I mean, just go ahead and look at what Silas Bolden did last year. Pretty okay player. So now at your slot, you got Isaiah Johnson, you have Alante Brown, and not to make light of it, but Alante Brown's brain turned to scrambled eggs in the first game of the season last year. He was behind the 8 ball immediately last year. I mean, that's not to say that he's going to pop off for 900 yards this year, but I do wonder what a new offense and hopefully a healthy offseason for him can do for him, because that was the speed guy coming in. That's what we were told as he transferred here from Nebraska. But I just do wonder what you get out of Alante Brown. But I feel like a wash is fair, but if I had to pick, God, just call me Johnny Spirit, I guess. I think this can be an upgrade. Like Montori Foster, Straw, and Jerron Glover, I think you're going to get a lot more production out of him. All the whispers, borderline shouts that you hear from the spring camp is that, this guy is a gamer. He can really play. And I don't know. I am with you on Isaiah Johnson, though, with just how much emphasis they put on the slot receiver here. So we'll call that 2.5 position groups they're better at. Is that fair? We'll meet in the middle there, Brennan.
I'd say that's fair, yeah.
Now, tight end. This is a unique conversation, I think. This is a fascinating one because who do you have back? Okay, Brendan Parachek, yes, he played a little bit last year. I think he'll be featured a lot more this year. Tyneal Hopper, I had no idea could come back. I didn't know that he had 19 years of eligibility, but good for him. Michael Masunas, too. Now, who you have out? Malik Carr, Evan Morris, Jalen Franklin. Who you're bringing in? Of course, Jack Velling, the guy who caught more touchdowns as a tight end than anyone else in the country last year. It's a weird conversation because Malik Carr certainly had games where he looked to be that 4-star guy. That top red zone pass catcher. He basically won us a game at the end of last year. But wow, was that inconsistent. It kind of just felt like we were wondering, is he going to try today?
Yeah.
That might be unfair.
You're pretty spot on with the Carr thing. I mean, he was inconsistent, especially in the blocking game. He was a solid receiver, could make plays after the catch. We saw in that Indiana game, he was exceptional.
Yes.
But I do think Velling is just a better all-around tight end. Going to be one of the best tight ends in the Big Ten, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see what he can do this year. Obviously, he's with Aidan Chiles again. So they have a little bit of chemistry there. And you're getting Parachek back, where I like as a young piece. You're getting Hopper back. Hopefully those two are healthy, because Parachek was a little banged up during the spring, and then Hopper was injured during last season. So hopefully they can stay healthy. It's kind of your 2 and 3 guys, but overall, top to bottom, I do think this tight end room is better, especially with Velling.
More reliable, I think. And also, too, I'm not, just going to completely defecate all over Malik Carr. I hope he does well at his next stop. He had some great moments here. But I do think that this unit will also benefit from the new coaching staff, too. They run more 12 personnel than the average in college football. And that's 2 tight end sets for those that don't know 12 personnel. I think that Brendan Parachek could be the breakout star for me, but I'm glad you brought up the injury in the spring because what is the injury? What's the extent of it? How much did it push him back this spring for development and learning the offense? Like that's not nothing. Like that could be something, but he's a good athlete. This is a coaching staff that utilizes the tight end, and I just think it's talent in the tight end room that we haven't seen here in quite some time. I mean, yes, I know I've said it twice already, but Carr did have talent. It just seemed far and few between of when we really saw that in games. And God, now I'm having flashbacks to the first pass to him last season, bouncing off his face mask. I had the over for his catches on FanDuel. That's okay. I'll still try to recoup that money, but it's neither here nor there. But yeah, like I think tight end is better, not just with the players that you have, but I'm kind of cheating here. Coaching staff and the way the offense is run here under Lindgren and Smith.
I mean, this staff's going to get more out of the tight ends than the last staff did. You mentioned the 12 personnel, and that's important because this team needs depth at tight end. And if Parachek, Hopper, they stay healthy, them two might be the keys to this tight end room. I mean, if they stay healthy with how much 12 personnel this Oregon State ran, and this new staff's probably going to run at Michigan State. I mean, those two, they're not the best tight ends on the team, but they might be the keys to this offense being reaching its max efficiency.
We'll see what tight end learned the most, the quickest in the spring, but we'll see. But you know what? Speaking of depth, Brandon, here we go. Offensive line. Because I could go either way on this one, honestly. Now, who do you have back? You got Brandon Baldwin, Christian Phillips, Ashton Lepo, Dallas Fincher, Cole Dellinger, Stanton Ramel. Of course, Stanton Ramel coming off an injury last year. Now, who is out? It is Ethan Boyd. It is Nick Samac, J.D. Duplain, Gino Vandermark, Spencer Brown, Keyshawn Blackstock. I just threw his name in there, even though he left halfway through last season. Nevertheless, who do you bring in? Tanner Miller. That's a lot of fun. Luke Newman, the Holy Cross transfer. And Andrew Dennis, I threw it. I don't know if he's going to make an impact as a true freshman, but we're going to talk about this, Brandon. The depth isn't all there, so he might just have to get out there and play this year. But I, for the life of me, can go either way on this because the starting offensive line, I don't hate personally, but boy, howdy, gee willikers, excuse my language, depth falls off a cliff here, man, because Dallas Fincher is your only guy in the two deep with any college experience. Brendan, is this offensive line better than last season, or are they worse? It makes sense for me. Do the hard work for me, please.
Yeah, I think the depth is worse because I do think they lost more than they brought in. So I think you're down a few guys. I think the depth is much worse this season. I mean, like you said, Fincher's the only one with college experience and on that second unit. But I do like Tanner Miller. I think he's going to be a really good center. Luke Newman, I'm excited to see what he can do at a power 4 level in the Big Ten. Played really well at Holy Cross and the FCS, but the depth is a big concern. And what's the one position you don't want to have depth concerns at? It's probably offensive line.
Offensive line, by any chance? Is it that?
Probably offensive line. So I'm going to go with they got a little bit worse. Not a ton worse. I still think they'll be somewhat serviceable on the offensive line, but the depth is a real big issue for me. I do like some of the pieces on that first team, but man, depth.
Yeah, and I do trust the starting unit, right? Because Brandon Baldwin at one tackle, fine. Ashton Lepo, yet he played at the end of last season. PFF graded him pretty high in a few games at the end of last year. And God, how mean can I be this episode? Anyone with 4 functioning limbs is probably an upgrade over Spencer Brown from last year. I'm sorry, that's so mean. I'm wishing him the best down in Oklahoma. Hope he has a great career, but oh my God, I was so sick of seeing him play last year. I think that's an upgrade at the tackle position. I'll just put it at that. I'll edit all that mean stuff out. The interior is where it gets interesting. Tanner Miller, okay, fine, that's proven, whatever. Christian Phillips, look at the spring game. That's a spring game though. And then, okay, Luke Newman, great. FCS All-American. He did great work at tackle. He has 30-some starts under his belt, but that is at the FCS level. We'll see how it translates and how quickly it does. And then my issue is the depth here. That is just the problem here, Brennan. So I think despite feeling okay about the starters, I do have to go with worse. And it's not to say, the depth was outstanding last year or anything. It's just not existent this year. Just not.
Yeah. And these young guys are going to have to step up. You know, your redshirt freshman,
Yeah.
your sophomores, Christian Phillips, Gavin Brocious. Who knows? The
Yep.
Lunowski twins might play. Stan Ramil, who's injured last year, is he going to
Yeah.
play? I mean, some of these guys are going to have to step up. Some of these young guys. So I'm interested to see who does, who sneaks into maybe that second team or first team offensive line. But yeah, depth is a big concern here. Probably the biggest question I have on
Walk-ons.
offense.
Totally, for a very good reason. I mean, like walk-ons, we're going to start to know their names. You know, Jacob Merritt, aka Johnny Coxslam, for anyone that's way too online, or Cooper Terpstra. Like we're even getting familiar with some walk-ons here. And look, could it be one of those great stories like a Jack Conklin or a Tanner Miller? Like, hey, they're a walk-on, but they surged. Sure, of course, I'm not going to discount that. But man, like we are seeing walk-ons in the duty here to start the season potentially. Especially when, well, your season success is really kind of on the arm of an healthy Aidan Chiles, and that's kind of who protects him. So I didn't mean to end it on a sad note, but I think overall, like the offense position group by position group, I think has gotten better. Is that what you're thinking too? I think
we can end it on that high note. Like by position, I do think the offense has improved. I think there's better talent, better players overall just on this offense. But I still think depth, even at quarterback, like if Michigan State had the injury luck that they've had the past 2 years, then it might be even a bigger issue this year than it has been in the past. Because you look at quarterback outside the top two, you got 2 true freshmen. Running back outside the top 2, I mean, you got Tullis, a true freshman. Wide out, there's young guys as well there. An offensive line we already hit on. But so, like I said, I think depth at multiple positions is a little bit of a concern. So staying healthy, as cliche as that sounds, is going to be a big key for Michigan State offensively.
Yeah, we've learned it, especially the fans that stuck around and watched every single game last year. Like it just dropping like flies throughout the season. And I don't know, like this could be flawed logic. I'm almost positive it is flawed logic, but just bear with me here. Like eventually the pendulum has to swing in the other end for injury luck, right? Like eventually, after a few years of just horrendous luck, it has to even out and water has to find its level, right? So maybe we go the whole year with not even a paper cut for anyone. Maybe.
I thought that last year.
We're due then. We're due.
Overdue, yeah.
Brendan, any big injuries at the fan camp, or just what was the fan camp like for you guys? How many people were there? Who was all the coaches? Just give us a recap of your whole weekend, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so no injuries as far as I know. That's a good sign. Have not gotten the injury report back yet, but as far as I know, no injuries. So we'll stay tuned on that. But the fan camp, if you don't know what it is, it's put on by Tom and Denny Nera. They do a great job with the Spartan football fan camp. It was this past Wednesday. They take you on a tour at the Tom Izzo football building. It's brand new. We stopped at the Nike Gear Lab, the nutrition station there, went up to the players' lounge, the weight room, the practice fields, the video room where they film practice, which is pretty cool. The team meeting room. And then once we were in the team meeting room, they kind of walked us through a little X's and O's session about what the defense is going to look like this year, what the offense is going to look like this year, and broke down some film for us. So that was all fun. Then we lunch, dinner included. Unfortunately, the weather did not quite hold up. It was off and on rain all day, all afternoon. So normally they do drills and in a football game inside Spartan Stadium, but we had to move that inside to the practice facility. But still, a lot of fun. There was 15 players there. So, I mean, some of your top names like Jordan Hall, Cal Halliday, Darius Snow were the linebackers there. Dylan Tatum, defensive back that was there. Maverick Hansen, Nate Carter was there. Montori Foster, just some of the names that were there, and they ran everyone through position by position drills. And then at the very end, we had a 9-on-9 game of, they called it Ultimate Football. It's kind of like a spinoff of Ultimate Frisbee. So you pass it, and then someone else catches it, and you can only take 2 steps, and then you have to pass it again. So it's kind of a fast-paced version of football. Not everyone line up and go run a route. It was just fast-paced, but kind of back and forth. That was a lot of fun. And I have to give a shout-out to Jacob from Lake Orion. He caught the game-winning pass for the green team, which I was on. So winning team in Ultimate Football. In traffic, made a grab, high pointed it, came down hard on his back, got turf all in his eyes, but got up, celebrated it like a champ. So that was sweet. So shout out to Jacob. But overall, it was a lot of fun. If you're interested in doing it, it will be next year as well. This year is $575. Next year, it's going to be likely the first week of June, probably that first Wednesday as well. So just keep an eye out for that.
It always looks like a hoot and a half. Did they have you on the squat rack or anything? Like when you're in the weight room, like are you maxing out on the bench or no?
Yeah, I squatted about 450 pounds, and then I
Nice.
benched about two. No,
Let's
no,
go.
it was just it was just Mike McDonald's great guy, head strength and conditioning coach, brand new to Michigan State. He just walked us through kind of what goes on in the weight room, kind of what they do certain months a year, like, what do they do in January versus what do they do over the summer,
Gotcha.
and kind of the technology they have in there as well. Like at each squat rack, they have like iPads that film each rep that each guy takes. So, and it was just endless amounts of squat racks in there, medicine balls. I mean, cardio machines, you name it. So yeah, the weight room was spectacular.
That's awesome. That's what I'm talking about. Well, hey, thanks a lot for sharing. It looks awesome. I got to scrounge together a bunch of cans in the next tailgate, try to raise $575 and get my way over there next year. So
you probably could. I mean, you could probably make that on one fall Saturday tailgate.
Probably just one run down Shaw, and that should be enough.
Good to go.
That should do it. Brendan, hey, thanks a lot for joining. Really do appreciate it, man. Would love to drag you back on here in the future. This is a great chat. Sorry again it took you this long to finally get you on the show, but this is awesome, man. And hey, you know what? I'll say it for the 80th time. Doing fantastic work over at Spartans Illustrated. So really appreciate you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, Matt, for having me on. So yeah, check out SpartansIllustrated.com, everyone.
You got it, folks. We will be back. We're going to be talking recruiting, a big weekend of official visits for Michigan State coming up. But until then, hey, enjoy the rest of your day. Love you all. Go Green.